Um, Looks like there's a live stream running, and my name is Moshe, and I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee, where I've lived for a long time, and it's about 6 minutes before 8 o'clock in the morning here in Israel. Of course, we moved our clock ahead last night at 2 a.m., which messed up my wife sleeping and my sleeping. We got up kind of early-ish. Um, and it's the 27th of March, and it's 55 degrees right now. And we're going to have cloudy and a small chance of rain in the middle of the morning. And that's about it. And then in the later, well, we'll have some sun. We got sun. I don't know what they're forecasting. And then that's tomorrow, partially overcast, high is 72. Today will be 65. And then Sunday, a chance of rain, substantial, high is 71. Monday, no rain, sunny off and on. Tuesday, sunny off and on. Wednesday, kind of cloudy, but 74 degrees. And then Thursday, they're talking some rain, but it's way too early to predict that. So the rain is not, it looked the other day like we were going to have rain till the end of the age, but now it seems to have lifted. Seems to have lifted. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is a lot of stuff, okay? Iran is mobilizing 1 million. Now, these are not regular army. They're already mobilized. They have reservists, they have militias, they have volunteer corps like the Bazij, or however you pronounce that crazy word. So they're mobilizing. And Trump is talking about bringing an extra 10,000 soldiers to the Middle East, an extra 10,000. They're raising 1 million. Okay, we'll talk about that. The way things are now is bizarre. And I mean, it's bizarre with this thing with the war and Trump. And I'll explain what I mean bizarre. Everybody waits for Trump to tell us what's going on with the war. And then we wait for Iran to tell us if it's true or not. That's truly bizarre. I'm going to expose oil prices to you again in a more graphic, kindergarten-like fashion, so you'll really grasp it. I don't know if everybody grasped it the last time, but I'm going to make sure you guys grasp it today. And the oil prices are way the heck higher than what you think. What you're looking at is paper trading prices, like paper gold, okay? These are speculators. They don't ever intend to take possession of the oil. They're buying future contracts, hoping to sell them at a gain. And, so the contracts might mean you could redeem the oil in July or September or something like that, right? But that's not the real price. The real price is if you want oil on the boat coming to you now, today, or tomorrow. And I'm going to show you what those prices are. And they're $30 to $50 a barrel higher. So we're not quite at 200 a barrel, but we're well on our way. And you're seeing prices perhaps suppressed because countries are working off their reserves right now to try to keep these prices down artificially. And I'm sure they're profiteering along the way because that's how they are. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Right? Had to do a little spiritual warfare for some jerk. Okay. So I'm going into the live stream. I want to see if we got a live stream. Something not right? No, it seems right. Testing, testing. No, it seems right. Testing, testing. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Testing. I'm doing good, except we got this time change. It knocked me a little bit off course. If Canada turns off the tap, you know what Trump's plan is? It's never going to come to pass, but he wants to control the Iranian oil. He's controlling Venezuela oil. He's obviously controlling American oil. And then he'll just start in on Canada. He'll find a way to get control of their oil or to get them to play ball with him. He will. I guarantee it. Okay. Is he going to invade them and fight them? No, but he'll find some way to do it. He'll isolate them if they don't. He's rather out of control. Do you know he's stopped usually the Treasury Secretary sign his signature is on the money. Trump is changing that to Trump's signature on the money. This is nuts. Pretty soon, you'll see Trump as the only living president on the currency, I expect. Wait for it. He's nuts. All right. Okay, I'm going to put up a post in the chat, which is likely going to take seconds. Okay. And I'm going to finish up here. And being a Bible believing site, Old and New Testament, I'm going to do some praise. You're welcome to join in and praise also. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right. So where do we begin as to get a handle on things? Well, as I told you, somebody I know who I respect told me the Lord told this person a good 3.5 months ago that the beginning of the destruction of the daughter of Babylon has begun. And you know, one of the key phrases in Jeremiah 50:51 is, I will kindle fires in and about your cities. Let me explain something to you. There was a fire in around Nebraska that was way over 100,000 acres burned, perhaps 160,000, and they just got containment on it, 100%, 100%. Now, right after that happened, within hours, a fire broke out in Nebraska that burned 80,000 acres in 6 hours. That was Thursday. Today's Friday in Israel. It's Friday now. So it's probably way over 100,000 acres burned now. Okay. So as one fire went out, this one went on. There's another fire also that's about 17,000 acres as of yesterday is burning also. Now, in Boulder, Colorado, the air quality is so bad on the toxic scale. I think 500 is the worst. This thing's like at probably 83% or something like that. It's really bad. They're told to stay indoors. Okay. So I'm telling you these things, and a lot of people don't pay attention. They don't want to, you know. The deal is, you don't look at just one thing. You don't just look at the earthquakes or look at the fires. You look at the whole picture, everything. And then you know you're close. Okay? This is what our boy Trump is saying now. As per Iranian government request, do you really think he's talking to the Iranian government? He says the reason they're denying talking to him is because they were afraid they'll get killed by the other Iranians. So listen to me, how stupid this sounds, okay? Try to think like a cop. That was my background for a while when I was very young. The story, the alibi makes no sense. Why? He's negotiating with Iran. Okay, we'll put that in there. Next is he's telling us Iran won't acknowledge it because they're afraid of getting killed. That's the next layer. Okay. The third layer is Trump tells everybody that Iran's negotiating with us, and he's happy with the negotiations. They're going well. So if that was the case, why would he expose these nice negotiators in Iran to getting killed? And then his deal goes up in smoke. Do you see what a cock and bull story this Trump is throwing out now? Do you see the stupidity of it? But you know something? What I just told you, maybe 2 or 3% of the United States maximum, I would say, understands. I would say a good 80, I don't know, probably 30, 40% of the country doesn't even pay attention to that. And the ones that do, most of them believe him. He's Trump. He's negotiating with nobody. I don't believe he's negotiating with the Shah. I don't believe he's negotiating with Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse or Elmer Fudd or anybody. Now, we got Trump caught in a lie. Trump said he was getting a gift from the Iranians of good faith or something, that had to do with oil and gas. Then he tells us that the Iranians let 10 ships carrying, I guess, either LNG or gas, oil, depart from the Straits of Hormuz. So what did we do? What did people do? They went out and looked for the ship tracking reports, all the ship reports of what's going on, movement in the area. Today is 27th of March. On 15th of March, there was a ship belonging to Pakistan that the Iranians let out. As from reading the reports, there was no 10 ships leaving. Why did Trumpy Dumpy talk of like that? Because he's driving down oil prices. The country, the world's in chaos. They're talking now about oil lockdowns. What's an oil lockdown? Let me kind of break it to you the way that works. In the initial stages, of course, you got price advances, which is business school way of saying the prices went up. And then what happens? People reduce some consumption of oil when the prices of gas, when the prices go up, for sure. They stop, using the car unnecessarily. They start to, well, I got to go to the supermarket. It's 11 miles or 7 miles. I'll go and I'll buy 2 weeks of groceries, not one. Stuff like this, right? Then the next thing they start doing is, like I saw this in California around 1979, 80 or something like that, 78, 79, I think. You can buy gas on Monday if your license plate ends in an even number. If it ends in an odd number, you got to buy it on Tuesday. So they kind of slowed down the amount of oil or gasoline you could buy. The other way is they start saying you could only buy 5 gallons at a time, or 8 gallons, or 10 gallons, or something like that, right? And they probably won't go below 5 gallons. So what's to stop you from putting 5 gallons in your tank and then going to another gas station, getting nothing? It's just a pain in the neck. And when they do this, there's generally lines. So you might have to wait online a half hour or an hour. So if you really need the gas to take a trip to go somewhere, you might have to get on 2 or 3 lines to get your tank filled up. Now, you're going to be limited as to how far you're going to go. So let's say, I don't know, let's say you want to go to Disney World, just pick a place everybody heard of. It's kind of central Florida near the Atlantic coast. And you live in Jacksonville, Florida, up at the north, where there's a big Navy base at the top of Florida. So the drive would probably be 2.5 to 3 hours, right? So are you gonna, you're gonna drive down to Disney World and you're gonna be empty when you get there. you won't have enough to get home. So what you're going to try to do is on the way down, try to look for a station on the freeway or something and pull off and get your 5 gallons, get back in, get another 5, another 5. So the idea is you probably have 3/4 to a full tank when you arrive at Disney, so you could get home. You know you're going to get home if the gas gets worse. But what's wrong with that picture? People are just not going to want to put up with that, and they're going to not go to Disney. Or they'll take alternative transportation, an airplane or a bus. But the chances are they're just not going to go to Disney. That's it. You're getting the idea. People are going to stop doing that. Jet fuel prices doubled at least a week or 10 days ago. So you're going to see less people flying because they're going to, if you're taking a 2-hour flight, they're probably going to put at least $50 or $100 of a fuel surcharge on your ticket, at least. Maybe 150, I don't know, something like that. They probably won't call it a fuel surcharge. They'll just change the price. If you're taking a trip, you're going from, let's figure, you're going from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, and you normally would pay, maybe $300-350 round trip, and it goes to $500 or $480 or something like that. And people are still going to go, but it's going to get reduced. Less people are going to go. So let's continue with our boy Donald, the Trumpster. As per Iranian government request, please let this statement serve to represent that I am pausing the period of energy plant destruction by 10 days to Monday, April 6th. Now, mind you, that's been a deadline that Netanyahu's been talking about days ago. So this is a deadline him and Trump worked out a while ago. It's just they're opening it up now. So Trump is saying until April 6th, 2026 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Talks are ongoing, and despite erroneous statements to the contrary, the fake news media and others, they are going very well. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Okay, now what did we see also go on? The Iranians made a statement. They mobilized 1 million people. And they don't have an extra 1 million regulars. The regulars are in the hundreds of thousands. They were mobilized. The IRGC, the regular soldiers, the Navy, their Air Force, all these other divisions they got. So what you got here is more than likely, I'm rather certain, you're talking reservists, militia, volunteers like the Bajis, and probably even new enlistments from Muslims that think it's a great idea to die while killing the big Satan and the little Satan, America and Israel. So that is not something that would make a person think that they're really in decent negotiations with Trump. The Admiral Brad Cooper of CENTCOM Command, he's the commander. The problem is the IRGC are war criminals, and if no, this didn't come from him. This is what I'm telling you. Sorry, this is me. The IRGC and the Army and the Bajis are basically war criminals, shooting unarmed civilians dead in the street, children, everything else, sniping them, beating them, mutilating them, everything they did to them. They're war criminals. And if they're going to dance to Trump's music, a new regime is going to come in. The IRGC is going to be dismantled, as will the military. The name of the country would change. The name of the military would change. These people would wind up getting persecuted or prosecuted, I should say, for war crimes and killed and put in jail and everything else. And they're well aware of that. They're not going to do it. And if Trump gives them immunity, which is a ploy that could be used, they're going to wonder how enforcement of that immunity is going to work unless Trump is the new government, So you got a lot of problems with this, okay? The death of the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps Navy Commander Admiral Al-Jabaja Bugabugu, what's his name? Tan Gashiri. Who wants to bother pronouncing these words? From an Israeli airstrike makes the region safer. Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, listen, guys. You've seen these targeted assassination in Gaza going on for years. Has Gaza surrendered yet? Disarmed? No. Okay, you've seen us do it with Hezbollah. Look at Hezbollah now. They're attacking us every day, nighttime, daytime. Look at Iran every day attacking us with all the target assassinations. Understand this. I'm going to say it very clear. Your kindergartner would understand it. Targeted assassinations is propaganda. It's not effective. That's it. Look at the evidence. It doesn't work. Now, let's say you got the Iranian Navy. All right. Which is not a big Navy. Let's say they killed 150 of their top ranking officers, all the admirals and the commanders. Okay. Would that affect things? Yes. But have they ever done anything like that? No. So if you went to the IRGC, the military, and you killed 163 of their generals and high-ranking officers, would that have some really detrimental effect on them? Yes. Are we getting anywhere near? No, you might get 10 or 12 kills at best. It doesn't do anything. Guys, it's a joke. It's a scam and a con on you and me, the people of America, the people of the world, the people of Israel. It's a con job. It doesn't do crap. Why are they doing it? The only thing I could say is they want, with Netanyahu, he wants to leave the enemies of Israel intact to kill us again another day. That sounds sick, doesn't it? No, it's not. You got to, when you analyze a world leader, you don't pay much attention to what they say. You pay attention to it, all right, but you pay a heck of a lot more attention to their actions, okay? And then you start to understand what they're about. If you're going to listen to their words, you're going to think they're saints, they're holy people, they love the Bible, they love God, they're nice people. Oh, man, you are so wrong. That's not it, okay? So this whole thing is a propaganda ploy. Now, what does it do? It makes the people of like America, Israel, whatever. Oh, wow, we killed a general. So what? Who cares? The next one steps in. If I read we killed 3,700 Hezbollah today in strikes, I would say that's really impressive. That's how you win a war, not by killing the generals and the admirals. You kill the soldiers. What good are the generals and the admirals when the soldiers are dead? You know, a big common war ploy, and that's one of the reasons they went to the M16 over the real good gun they used to have in America that shot the 308. That was a heck of a gun. You know, yeah, it was a big wooden rifle. It was heavy. The little women couldn't hold it. The little men that are 5'1", 5'10" can't hold it. I understand. So the M16 is a 55 grain bullet at the same speed as the 308, which weighed 180 grains. So it was, roughly 3 times heavier bullet. When you shot somebody with that, they stayed shot. Surprisingly, when you shoot somebody with the M16, they stayed pretty well shot too. Different kind of shot though. They're not dead. So what you get with the M16 is a lot of wounds, and that makes the enemy have to put them in hospitals and repair them. The enemy can't just take them outside behind the dining room and shoot them and put them in the ground. The soldiers would rebel if they did that. They'd walk away. You have to have the proper medical care to keep the morale up. You really do. So if Netanyahu was going around killing Hamas, well, the Hamas thing, that was just a cockamamie mess. With all the tunnels and everything, it's really hard to kill him. Do you have the same thing going on up in Iran? Actually, you do. Worse. Their tunnels have 25, 30-foot ceilings. I've seen pictures. They're huge. I mean, they really got sophisticated tunnels. And facilities in mountains and underground. And, it's very hard to get to them. So you're not going to have such an easy time, giving out news reports that are real. Oh, we killed 2,900 today. That was how you won World War II. Okay. Did they do that in Vietnam? They did, but they also killed and punished a lot of civilians. And it was an unjust war. They were going in there and massacring a bunch of Buddhists many miles away that were far from jumping into their carved out logs and rowing over to America to attack people with their machetes. Nothing like that was going on. It was just a massacre to stop the spread of communism. So murder is justified to stop the spread of communism. Oh, they couldn't sell that today, could they? No. They sold it in my generation, and a lot of people didn't believe it, and a lot did. I know one kid in the neighborhood, he was ordered to Vietnam during the war, and he was running around showing everybody his orders to go to Vietnam. He was looking forward to it. There was another guy that was there in communications. He got a leave to come home for Christmas, and he was at somebody's house. We were having a gathering at a house, and he tried to use the phone to call his friends in Vietnam. There was another guy that was a medic, and he got screwed up from him. He started observing some mystic from India, Baba Ram something, oh no. And he was talking about how he was there, repairing, he was a medic. And then there was another kid I know that got screwed up. He became a seltzer man. There was no shortage of kids that got screwed up, but the ones that were gung ho and really wanted to go there and kill the Kong, they didn't get screwed up, unless you want to call their aggression screwed up. No, they came home, they were fine, you know. I actually ran into people that were in Vietnam. You know, you could be in Vietnam Friday at noon, and then you could be in your mother's house eating dinner with her Saturday lunchtime. It was that fast. Or in some cases, it could have been Sunday, but it could have been in less than 24 hours. So you came off the battlefield wearing a uniform, carrying a gun and ammo, and they processed you out in Vietnam, and then they just flew you home, and you got off the plane, and that was it. You were free. You didn't have to go report to a base, apparently. You just showed up at a base and you checked out, maybe, and said, okay, I'm signing out, and you were out of the military. You were all processed, I believe, in Vietnam. So you were, boom, you were out, and then you were walking around on the streets of Milwaukee or Tampa or wherever you were, and you know everybody else was behaving normal, but you were walking around in like shock. You didn't know where you were. You had a big time zone change, jet lag. You know, you were, you know, it wasn't the greatest idea. You know, during World War II, a lot of them came home on ships. So you left the war zone. Well, the war was ended and it was over. So you were hanging around wherever you were in the Pacific or Europe for weeks, maybe, without the fighting. So that you wore off. The edge wore off because you were there, but you weren't in combat. You weren't getting bombed and mortared and, you know, okay. So then they would process you and you'd get on a boat with a few thousand other guys and come back to America on the boat, which probably took, you know, 10, 12 days or something like that, or maybe less. Sometimes you had good weather, you could have had bad weather, you could have had this, that, but everybody on the boat was real happy. They were going home, they made it out alive, they were talking and, you know, planning and this and that. And I don't think the drill instructors, the sergeants, were up there getting them up on the deck and having them do jumping jacks and push-ups and squat thrusts. What's the point? It's over, you know. I don't think they did that. And then they got back and they got off the boat and they got on a bus and they went to a base, and then it might have taken a couple of days. They processed them out. So they were pretty wound down. You know, there was already a back memory that they were in combat. But with the Vietnam thing, they were right from battlefield to the house. I knew one, he stayed up all night until he could see. He got like the sun started to come up, and then he went fishing. He was so wound up he didn't want to go to sleep. Um, you know, they just, that's what it was like. You know, they just didn't know what to do. One guy came to the park. We were young teenagers, probably 13 or something like that. Maybe we were 11 or 12. I don't know. We were young. And the guy told us he just got back from Vietnam. These were probably the early days of Vietnam, and he asked us to, um, he wanted us to, he wanted to us to throw pitch balls at him, and he was going to hit them. So he had a lot of baseballs, and he just wanted us to keep throwing them and retrieve them and keep bringing them back. and he paid us, and we did it for a while, and then we did it longer than what he was contracting to pay us. So we reminded him, and he said, "No, you're right, guys. I'm sorry. Thank you." He was very nice. He had just gotten out. It was really hard. I mean, what they were doing, and that's one of the reasons a lot of these kids cracked up. Another reason they cracked up is they're over there taking drugs. Do you know what kind of a jackass you got to be to go out on patrol? And they were handing out speed pills. They called them anti-fatigue pills. They were handing them out like candy in Vietnam. I mean, like candy. And they would take them, and you could stay awake for a maximum of 3 days. Then you'd collapse. And 3 days was the amount of the patrol time. Coincidence, right? So they would go out taking these speed pills. Not everybody, but some did. And the reason they did it is they didn't want to fall asleep in the jungle because you could wake up dead. So they didn't want that. So they stayed awake, and then they smoked marijuana. So they were taking stimulants, speed, and hallucinogenic marijuana at the same time in the jungle in a war zone. Now, if that's not going to get you insane, I don't know what would. So I knew a guy that was a medic there. I knew him quite well. He worked for the CIA after that, but he told me what he did when he was there is he said he'd get a day. He had to go on the patrols too. He said the patrols were idiotic. You'd go out and you're walking around in the jungle and they got 1 or 2 helicopters flying over you. So everybody within 10 miles or 5 miles knows that the Americans are there, I mean, nonsense like this, And he said when he had a day off, he would go into the town and they would drink, I think they call it cognac, French cognac, like Remy Martin or something. It's a sweet, syrupy thing, like a cough medicine taste. So, well, I don't know. People consider it a fine liquor. It's high alcohol content. And he said he would go to the bar and he would drink that, and he had access to morphine. And he said he'd bring syringes of morphine and keep himself injected. He said just to turn it off, just to try to turn off that he was in Vietnam, and it was so bad. But there were people that liked it. I ran into people that re-enlisted 3 times. They wouldn't let you do more than that. They had people that kept re-upping, but they cut you off at 3. They didn't want you because they were afraid you would be so screwed up that the Army could never use you again. So they let people go 3 times. That's about 3 years. And I knew a guy who was in the Marines, and he was there 3 years, and then he got sent back, and they wanted to give him easy jobs. So he was in Florida running the, whatever they call that college program where they go in the military. He was running that. So basically, what is he doing? He's running around, trying to find college girls all the time. And, this is what they did for the people that did that. They said, well, you did your share and then some more. So now go and teach the kids that are going to college and they're in the military. And then when they finish college, they become a lieutenant, a second lieutenant, and they ship them to Vietnam. So they wanted people like him there teaching the realities of Vietnam to these kids. So that's what they were doing. But yeah, once you put your time in and you re-upped a few times, they were good to you after that. You could have got duty in Japan or other places. Japan was sort of a fun place to be. I understand they liked it there. Okay. they're telling us 92% of the Iranian ships in the Iranian Navy have been eliminated. This is such a lie. They had up to 3,000 go fast boats. Maybe they had 2,200, they might have had 2,800, some generally high number. And they maybe destroyed 30 or 40 of those or 50, and they're still active. So they're giving us deceptions. They're not counting those boats because they're small boats. True. But they can launch submarines. They got heavy machine guns. They could launch missiles. They even put mortars on them. Weird stuff. Okay, I've got a prayer request I don't want to forget about. Okay, this is for a tossed salad request, plus whole enchilada. Okay, and this is for the following people. I'll give you the initials: JB, Jack Bravo, JB, SB, Sierra Bravo, SB, CA, Charlie Alpha, CA, Charlie Alpha, and LA, Lima Alpha, LA, Lima Alpha. So you want to have a tossed salad, a big, extreme tossed salad with the whole enchilada for JB, SB, CA, and LA. Okay? LA is initials, it's not a city in Southern California. All right. That's the only prayer toast request I have today. So he's delayed the strikes on the power plants, and we're getting missile attacked every day. So it's hard for me to say, oh, Trump made the delay so Israel could get pounded by missiles for another 10 days. I think, number one, Trump's not really giving a hoot about what happens to us in that regard, but he has other issues that he's trying to deal with. Okay. Military issues. All right. They're saying that Trump is in the belief that more ground troops are going to push Iran to some kind of settlement. What I think, I think the troops are hiding most of the time in Iran because they're afraid to stick their heads out and walk around. In other words, I don't think you're going to see a convoy of 200 or 300 Iranian troops with 3 or 4 tanks and some personnel carriers and jeeps walking around and traveling because they'll get blown up. So they're hiding inside caves and tunnels and stuff like that. So if you put troops in there, there's things that could be done. You can drop gas canisters in there. Now, you don't have to drop, cyanide in there. You could drop stuff in there that would maybe get them sick and make them want to come out. That's one theory. Or forget the gas, just seal them in. Or I don't know what, you know. He is afraid to hit the power grid, which is the only way he's going to shut the missiles off. And I'm not even sure he's going to be that effective at that because the Iranians are saying if you do that, we're going to take out the water desalination plants in the Middle East and the other electrical plants. The power is likely going to interfere with the operation of their missile cities and their missile launch sites. It may not initially do it. It may have to take a few days because they may have some emergency generator issues that could keep them going, but probably not in the long term. Trump's afraid because they're going to hit Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, probably Jordan, because they're cooperating with America, and Saudi Arabia, and attempt to hurt Israel. So Trump is nervous about that. There's a saying in the Middle East that goes like this: when two big elephants have a fight, the grass gets trampled. So Iran's a big elephant, America's a big elephant, Israel's a big elephant, and having a fight. The grass is Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, those guys. That's just a figure of speech. It's not a military practice. What's Trump going to do with the 10,000 troops? I have no idea. He might be thinking of trying to attack the underground facilities where the brass hangs out, but he's not going to get into them. They're going to have blast doors 3-4 feet thick. I really don't know. The Iranians have fortified Karg Island, Kharg, but Trump could bomb them to death. If they see themselves losing, they could ignite the oil tanks on fire, and I don't know what's going to happen. I think that if there's not a ceasefire, and there's not going to be one, I don't think, you're going to see a good amount of American soldiers get killed and wounded. And I'm not saying that I'm really glad this is happening. They're helping us in reality. They're just not going to be able to avoid that. They could bombard these people on Karg Island, but they're not stupid. They must be dug in Karg Island. Now, it might be hard for them to dig down because it's an island, so you can create above ground fortifications. If you build a fortification with 6 feet, that means the walls are huge, of really hardened concrete with rebar and all that, and you hit it with something, it's, you hit it directly with a 1,000-pound bomb. Are you going to get through the 6 feet? I don't know, maybe. But direct hits are not so common. What will happen is you'll hit nearby, and the shrapnel is just going to bounce off the concrete. It's just going to put little, divots in it, little dings, little dents. That's all. And generally, they hide in there, and they'll have machine guns, heavy machine guns, and tens of thousands of rounds. And they could, be in strategic positions and mow down the Americans. They'll also have artillery fortified that could mow down the Americans. They'll have mortars that could mow down the Americans. They'll have booby traps like landmines and other sabotage type devices to mow down the Americans. And it's going to be a rough fight in Karg Island. Now, Trump is thinking he's going to take them out by air. Now, maybe he can. I don't know. I don't know exactly how the Iranians did it. Maybe they do have tunnels dug. I don't know. So there's going to be a big fight in Carg Island if Trump wants to try to keep Carg Island for the United States because it's the pivot point of the oil. And Trump is indicating he's thinking of that. He's saying, well, we'll go in and we'll take their oil. Well, how do you take their oil? Oh, I can tell you. You're fighting an adversary that has no air force. They have missiles. You with me? Okay. There's oil fields. You know, you got oil wells like you see on TV in LA, these things and going up and down, right? Okay, and the oil comes up, it gets in a pipeline. The pipeline takes it to the big storage tanks on Carg Island. Ships pull up, even super tankers, and they hook up hoses or pipes or whatever they do in there, and they pump the oil in. It might take a half a day. The day they fill the boat up with oil, the boat pulls out and goes to India or Casablanca, wherever the heck it's going to go, right? Okay. So if you put soldiers on the ground around the oil fields with the air support that they're going to have, which is perpetual flyovers, you know, you'll have planes in the air day and night to call in airstrikes if you're getting attacked. Okay, you know, just 4 jets coming in like F-15s loaded with all sorts of stuff, and there's a large ground force attacking the Americans holding these oil fields. You know, just a small amount of planes coming in are going to destroy the invading Iranian soldiers by the dozens. I mean, you know, they're going to be getting bombed. The Iranians will try it with tanks and armor and they'll get bombed. Will some American soldiers die? I'm afraid that that's highly likely. Yeah. Will the Iranians realize it's futile for them to try to rush them by ground because they have no air support? Maybe, but what they'll resort to is drones and missiles to kill the Americans. Will they kill a lot of Americans that way? I don't know. It depends how fortified the Americans are. If they're just sleeping in pup tents, they're going to get killed. They won't make it. Okay. So this thing about the 10 ships being released was a scam designed to ease tensions regarding oil prices, and because it was supposedly millions of barrels of oil, and it didn't do much. He's saying the gift I spoke about was the passage of 10 oil tankers through the Straits of Hormuz, that were carrying the Pakistani flag. There was one ship like that on March 15th. So this whole thing doesn't seem to have any basis in fact. It's just Trump talking. And Trump just says whatever the heck he wants. You know, the scripture is, he who loveth and maketh a lie. That's what Trump is. So there was a big fib there. And this is a bad thing that he's doing stuff like this, because you're going to very briefly, or already now, have a president nobody believes. Now, this just came out in the news and you probably didn't pick it up. Maybe you did. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, and the UK, yes, Stammer, Prince Charlie, are going to join the fight against Iran. Yes, yes. Again, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and the UK. Now, do I suspect strongly that if this actually happens, which it's most likely will, are other countries going to join in? Yeah, but a lot of them don't have what to fight with, but yeah, they probably will. Like who? Well, maybe Qatar, maybe Kuwait. They don't have much, but maybe them. I don't know. Okay, so let's talk about oil so you understand the scam that's going on. There's paper oil, like paper gold. People buy, they're gambling. They don't ever want to have oil. Okay, now oil's not gold and silver. I don't know anybody who buys barrels of oil and puts them in their safe for the garage. I mean, nobody does that. So it's just a gambling speculation game. A very small percentage of these people buy the futures contracts and intend to take delivery. Now, there's another kind of oil trade going on now, today, where the prices are drastically higher. And that's with people wanting physical delivery of oil today, not in June 15th. They want it now. Okay. So what you see in like today is the Brent is $105 to $110 a barrel, which is high, but that's just the paper price. That's not reality. And the WTI, the American oil, is $94 to $98 a barrel. Now, when you want to get physical delivery, like out of Dubai or somebody else in the Middle East, you're going to have to pay $135 to $157 a barrel. Got it? So the actual disparity between the paper oil prices, which is not real, you can't take the paper oil and put it in your gas tank, okay? It's not real. The reality oil, the real oil that you could rub on your fingers and put in your gas tank, so to speak. I mean, you got to go to refineries. But anyway, that's running $25 to $60 a barrel more. So that's the reality of this. So you're paying $40, $60 over the paper price, and that's the real price. Okay. the premium gasoline, what do they call that? High test, the high octane. That stuff is going at $60 over. That's a higher demand. I guess a lot of people have cars that need the high octane gasoline. In normal times, the discrepancy or the difference between paper oil and real physical delivery oil would run between $1 and $4 a barrel, not up to $60 a barrel. So Trump has created, or the world has created, a gaga goo goo lunatic oil market right now. $20 to 25%, depending who you want to listen to. Let's go with the worst. 25% of the oil is blocked in the Persian Gulf. The Houthis are saying they're ready to step in and block the Red Sea, and that's going to knock out another 7 to 8% of the world's oil. So between the two of them, they're going to have no problem. 1/3 or maybe higher, about 1/3 of the world's oil isn't going to move. Now, this is also funny, okay? I mean, it's like really funny, but serious. Not in a bad way for America or Israel, but I'll explain it to you. The UK and France are forming multinational effort for the Straits of Hormuz to be opened, or they're going to do escorting of vessels. So while UK is getting into it, they're getting into it with France, who also is getting into it, and they're going to apparently work to open up the Straits of Hormuz. There's two ways to open up the Straits of Hormuz. You kill anyone and everything that's keeping it sealed. That works. Or you use your warships to escort commercial vessels through the straits, attempting to keep them safe by firing missile takedown missiles and so forth. That's a great way to lose warships, because Iran is still alive and well with shooting missiles. So they don't like America, so they're going to try to do this themselves without Trump. And what do I think's going to happen? Trump will tell them, fellas, come on, let's work together. Don't be stupid. And if they insist on being stupid, then they'll be stupid. And they'll start losing warships, and they don't have that many to lose, and they'll lose sailors. It's not going to be a lot of fun, but So we'll have to watch that one. So that means not only the UK is getting in the fight, but also France. But we did hear UK is going to work with America. So maybe they pulled away from France, or maybe France is going to hook up with America too. I don't know. But they got to get that stinking Strait of Hormuz open, or if they wait too long, there's going to be a real problem. Now, Trump is pushing it off another 10 days. You got to understand this. He's not hitting their energy for 10 days. They can't stop the missile launches. Netanyahu, in the last 2, 3, maybe 3 days, has been experimenting with new types of attack on these fortified missile cities, trying to shut down their entry-exit doorways or pathways. And they say they're doing pretty good. Do the Israeli military lie to the people about stuff like this? No. If they say they're doing pretty good with it, they are. So we'll have to see what happens. But Trump stopped attacking the energy, and Israel stopped attacking the energy. But both of them, America and Israel, are avidly attacking the Iranian military structure and all the military stuff. They're gung ho. Which again is just another indication that they're not in negotiations. Who the heck goes into negotiations where you're attacking every day? I mean, doesn't add up. That's where you get a surrender from somebody, not negotiations. Now, this happened yesterday. I made a special video about it, and I thought it was rather touching. Okay. Uganda. Now, parts of Uganda belong to Greater Israel. Uganda is in Africa, and parts of it, from the Nile. So the Nile River over to the right or the east, that's ours. So it does cut through Uganda. Anyway, they said that if there's talk about the destruction of Israel or defeating Israel, they said we're going to join the war on the side of Israel. And they were calling Israel their brothers. And they said if Israel wants our help, all they have to do is ask. So Uganda said that we'll go fight for our brothers Israel because we're real Christians. Or they said Christians are real Christians. Now, we know what most Christians do for Israel. Oh, we'll pray for you. Right? What did Uganda say? Anybody who starts destroying Israel, we're going to go over there and fight with Israel. And if Israel wants us to come over there now, just ask. We'll be there. Now, I want to be realistic and polite about this. Is this real? Oh, yeah, it's real as rain. A lot of Israelis for many years, 30 years, maybe 40 years, have been going to Uganda. We send people that have been in our security services go over there as civilians and work for their security services and help them. And Israelis can go live in Uganda and being pretty good. They're pretty well received. I've met some people have gone there and married Ugandan women and come back to Israel. They can go over there and hang out with. In Uganda, you could go there and stay 5, 10, 20 years, whatever you want. They don't mind you at all. It's easy. They don't have a big military. They have some modern tanks and some modern equipment. and they probably don't have 100,000. Maybe they hit 100,000 with their militias or something, or reservists. I don't know, maybe 120. They're not a big military power. They're not an air force power. They're not a navy power. They got a military. They can protect their country from other small nations. You know, um, they're probably out of missile range, rather certainly, I would think, out of missile range from Iran. Uh, if Yemen tried to go over there and have combat with them, they would fight against Yemen tooth the Houthis. They would fight against them tooth and nail. They would the Houthis wouldn't be happy about that. There'd be a lot of dead Houthis. And again, God may help Uganda. Uh, who the heck else is? I mean, America is obviously helping Israel, but who the heck else is coming out there and saying, "Well, we're going to help Israel"? I don't know anybody. Do you? The UAE and Saudi Arabia are not going out there to help Israel. They're going out there to help oil. The same, with the UK and France. They're going out there to help oil, not Israel. If we used them, if we called Uganda in to work with us, it would be more trouble than it's worth. It's a lousy thing to say, but they're not trained at the level of Israeli military. And it would get in the way, and they would maybe get killed. I don't think they're as highly trained as us. I mean, we're right up in the top of militaries, or by any survey, we're right in the top few, you know. So I don't think maybe they would be useful to fight against Hezbollah that are poorly trained and jackasses, but I don't think we want them to do it and we want them to get killed. Remember, they'll get in the way as much as they will be helpful. So we're not likely to call them up, but it was rather touching to me anyway that they did it, and they said because they're Christians. Well, I wonder what kind of churchianity is going on in Iran. I never hear the churchianity churches talk like, "Oh, we're going to go fight for Israel." I never heard that yet. All I ever hear from them is, "We'll pray." There are charities that raise money from all over the world that distribute food in Israel, clothing, children's toys, different things go on. Uh, if Israel needs help, it only needs to ask their Ugandan brothers ready to assist. We stand with Israel because we are Christians. See, the churchianity Christians are different kinds of Christians, aren't they? Yeah. We'll pray for anybody, but we won't lift a finger to help you. So there are charities that raise money all over the world that will, if I wanted to call the charity up and say I need food, and they would send a guy to the house 2-3 times a week with food. The Turkish tanker named M/T Altura, carrying about 1 million barrels of Russian crude oil, nothing to do with Iran here, was hit by a UAV attack 15 nautical miles from the Bosphorus Straits, which is Turkey's little kingdom over there, in the Black Sea. So apparently the explosion struck the command bridge and water entered the engine room. No casualties were reported. Turkey dispatched rescue forces. So water in the engine room doesn't mean that they're sinking per se. It means that they're dead in the water. In other words, they're not moving. The engine's shut down, so they need to get towed. Yeah, that could happen. Okay. Somebody didn't want the Russian oil to reach its destination. I don't know who did that. Unlikely it was Israel. Israel wouldn't be operating around the Bosphorus Straits. I don't think we did that. I highly, highly doubt it. Ukraine or America, I guess, would have been the ones. The Pentagon is developing military options. In other words, they're grinding out war plans, target packages, and so forth, for a final blow in Iran that could include use of ground forces and a massive bombing campaign, according to 2 U.S. officials and 2 sources. So, two U.S. officials and 2 sources with knowledge. So we don't know who these other sources are. So I have caught wind of this also, that America has every intention of going into a big gung-ho bombing campaign on Iran again. It appears to me that Trump is waiting for ground troops for sure to come into the Middle East and possibly ferrying in or flying in other equipment, different kinds of bombs, or I don't know. He's got to be very, very, very careful because the Iranian missile launch capability is still alive and well, and he's got to suppress it a lot more. During this time period, Israel and America will continue to attack Iranian missile sites, and we're also doing a good job hitting missile factories. So we don't want them producing any more missiles. So we're hitting a lot of those things, which means you run out of missiles. Listen, when Trump says that Iran has been, severely beaten, he's right. But you're dealing with psychiatric, criminally insane people. So they don't care about that. Okay? That's the problem. Trump telling the truth about 10 days of diplomacy to lead to, a a deal with Iran, that's poppycock. I thought maybe he was negotiating with some entities that he intended to put into power and get rid of the mullahs, but there's nothing like that going on. He's trying to make believe he's negotiating with the idiots that are in charge of pushing the launch buttons on the missiles all day and night. No, they're not negotiating. Trump saying, let's take control of Iran's oil. That's real. Trump wants to be the next oil czar. You know, if he could control the Iranian oil, the American oil, and the Venezuela oil, and then influence or control the Canadian oil, he can dictate to a lot of countries like India, China, you know, about how things are going to work, because otherwise they're not going to be getting the oil they need. With Trump's signature to start appearing on the money, you guys got to understand you got a real problem with Trump. Okay, there's something wrong with him to be doing that. Okay, so when you see all these targeted assassinations, guys, that's how you lose a war. That's how you keep the war lasting. That's just stupid. Okay, and we've seen this moron Netanyahu do it to Israel and pull the wool over the eyes of many Israelis with this targeted assassination. It doesn't produce results. It doesn't. The attack on the Hezbollah was not a targeted assassination. They hit a few thousand soldiers. Regular soldiers got hit in the hundreds and hundreds. Now, like I say, killing or wounding the military is an excellent way to get a victory. Far better than playing this targeted assassination game. We had a very unusual message come out of CENTCOM to the Iranian military. Here it is. This was in the last 24 hours, I'm pretty certain, or maybe 12 hours or something like that. We call on every Iranian serving in the IRGC -N, whatever that is, to, I don't know what the -N is, but I know the IRGC, okay, to immediately abandon their post and return home to avoid further risk of unnecessary injury or death. The death of the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy. Oh, the N is the Navy. The Navy. Commander Admiral Alariza Tangisen, from an Israeli strike, makes the region safer. Tangsiri, whatever the jerk's name is, commander of the IRGC Navy for 8 years, during which times the IRGC harassed thousands of harassed thousands of innocent merchant marine merchant mariners, merchant marine vessel people, attacked hundreds of vessels with one-way attack drones and missiles, and killed countless innocent civilians. He was designated as a specially designated global terrorist by the U.S. Treasury in June of 2019, with additional secondary sanctions added in 2024 related to drone since the commencement of Operation Epic Fury, 92% of the large ships, that's true, okay, 92% of their large ships, not the go-fast boats, their large ships in the Iranian Navy have been eliminated. As a result, IRGC-N for Navy has completely lost their ability to project power in the Middle East or around the world. Now, with the loss of their long-time leader, the IRGC-N, the Navy, is an irresponsible. What? Oh, it's in irreversible decline. Yeah, there's nothing left except go fast boats, which are still dangerous, but they could easily be taken out by aircraft. They can't defend against aircraft worth a hoot, you know. U.S. military strikes on the IRGC Navy will continue. Therefore, we call on probably the go fast boats. We call on every opening the Straits of Hormuz. Yeah. We call on every Iranian serving in the IRGC Navy to immediately abandon their post and return home to avoid further risk of unnecessary injury or death. Well, if they abide by this, and they don't show up for work, the Iranian will have the military police go to their house, and if they find them in their house, they'll kill them, and they'll probably kill their family. And this was done by Admiral Brad Cooper, the CENTCOM commander. So, what does this tell us? A lot. It tells us they're going to do an abrupt campaign against the blockage of the Persian Gulf. But I think they're going to have tremendous difficulty with this because the missiles can still be launched. So I'm pretty sure Trump got a problem here, and I'm not sure how they intend to resolve it. I believe the admirals and the generals in America are not dumbbells, and they study war, and they're probably trying to come up with some sort of tactics. But if Trump starts meddling, like he's doing now with his, taking a 10-day break and this and that, he's liable to ruin any advantage that the Americans have. But he's not giving them a ceasefire. So the bombing attacks on the military infrastructure are still very much alive and well. But we got problems with this, and we're taking missiles every day from Hezbollah and Iran. And we don't see or hear anything about America helping us with Hezbollah. So you have to scratch your head as to what kind of an ally Trump wants. They want us to go help him in his fight, but he's not going to help us in our fight, unless maybe Netanyahu told him to stay out of it, which I doubt. So we got a problem, and I don't, we might be fighting Hezbollah for weeks. Now, it's not funny. We get missiles shot during the night, during the day, and we got it covered pretty good now again, so we're hardly having any casualties, but it's really bad, and we're not getting anywhere here. I mean, America's certainly not jumping in with us with Hezbollah for diplomatic reasons, I expect. Let me try to see if we got questions here or anything. Um, well, I don't see. I think we're okay. I'm not getting a lot of posts up in the chat, or unless I'm not reading it right or something. But you could also write comments. So that's what I see going on, and um, it looks like this is just going to continue for a while, and that's not any fun. Well, we can take a look at gold prices. They're kind of funny. Um, the last day or so, I mean, they're not really that outrageous or anything. They're just kind of going up and then going down, and nothing irregular. Just nothing much. 44.60 on gold, so it's up a little bit, and silver 69. It's about where it is. Nothing revolutionary. It's about the same. Um, so, there's not, I mean, we can go running around looking at the paper prices of oil, but you got to back up. Uh, so that's pretty much what's going on right now, guys. Let me see if we have any new developments since I started the broadcast. So I think the extra 10,000 soldiers may have already gotten orders. I can't confirm that though. So I don't want to tell you for sure, but I think it already happened. What he's going to do with them, I don't know. Karg Island, maybe the oil fields and Karg Island. I don't know. Let me see what's going on. Israeli has shifted the military focus from attempting to incite an uprising to overthrow the regime to systematically targeting Iran's military industrial infrastructure, including missile and drone production sites. This strategy shift comes amid assessment. The reason for this is we don't think the protesters, or whatever you want to call them, have got it in them to carry out a bloody revolution. They're going to have to, they would be fighting in the streets. In other words, you'd be hiding behind cars, and around the corners of buildings, and on the roofs, and from windows of offices, shooting the government of Iran soldiers, and they don't seem to have the what it takes to pull that off. Trump is now saying, I gave them a 10-day period. They asked for 7, and I said, I'm going to give you 10 because they gave me the 10 ships. Well, these are the 10 ships that nobody can account for. This is pretty, you got to understand. I don't think Trump is insane and got dementia and just saying things that aren't true. I think Trump is a liar and sees himself getting ahead in life and in the world by telling all kinds of lies, and that's not a good thing. Um, there's a lot of talk that the Ayatollah is gay. Well, the dead Ayatollah, who cares? He's dead, is dead. Um, the U.S. has confirmed it's using drone speedboats without a crew to run patrols. Um, and operations against Iran, making it the first use of such vessels in an active conflict. That is different. I didn't know this was going on. They're called autonomous reconnaissance craft. They've logged over 450 hours and 2,200 nautical miles during this operation. The boats can be used for surveillance and potential strike missions. That might help them with the Persian Gulf opening, because they're not going to lose soldiers, they'll just lose equipment. The UAE is pushing to form a multinational naval force to reopen the Straits of Hormuz. They're also trying to go to the UN for support, which is going to be nonsense. You're not going to get any support because the Chinese and the Russians will veto it, and that's that. We're hitting Isfahan in Iran last night. I think both of us, America and Israel. Marco Rubio, this has been an incredibly successful operation. It may not get covered because, unlike Iran, we aren't bombing embassies and hotels. Yeah, Iran said they're going to attack hotels in the Middle East because America is putting military in the hotels. They're bringing military into the area. Some are already here, and they're housing them in hotels. The military probably likes that, but it's dangerous for the military. So there's about 5,000 Expeditionary Force Marines that are either here or will shortly be here in the coming days, very brief period of days. And then there's 2,000 82nd Airborne soldiers who are already on their way to the area. They'll probably come by plane. And then an additional 10,000. So he'll have himself 17,000 in addition to the 50,000 in all the different bases in the Middle East. But I think those people in the bases are not really set up to do more than hold the bases. These 17,000 people are going to be on the move aggressively doing things in Iran. I'm rather sure they're going to do the Karg Island, and what else they're going to do, I don't know. Somebody wrote me something on social media in Japanese. What is this? They're trying to do energy transfer to me without any fees. Well, this is obviously a crook. Let's get a block on them. Block user. There we go. How did that take? Oh, there it is. Yeah. Selling energy on Telegram. Yeah, sure. All right. There's something here I'm going to look at. This is coming from Arabic into Hebrew, and then I'm going to read it. Let's see. Iran is saying they did not ask for 10 days. A source in the Iranian parliament, we have not yet used 70% of our missile cities. I believe them. Estimates, Iran has not yet used a Qassam missile on the Axis. Don't know. Maybe. That's not encouraging. Oil exports in the last 23 days compared to the 23 days of the previous month. Iraq was 76%, Kuwait 72%, Saudi 52%, and Iraq, Kurdistan 49%, Iran 4%, Oman 7%, Russia 14%. See, there's shortage in the oil in the world. Okay, well, I don't see any really new exciting updates since we started. So, please pray for me. I don't know. I'm getting old and senile. I got a package that was important to me, and I put it down someplace because there was a lot of stuff going on in the house. There was the cleaning lady here and other stuff, and I put it away someplace, and I can't find it. I don't recall where I put it. I don't know what happened. I had two packages. One I found, and the other I didn't. I don't know what happened. So please pray. Seriously, please pray I find it. I've done this thing in the past. I put things away to be safe and secure and forget where they are. It's a sign of getting old. So please pray for me. I really need to find this thing. Thank you. It's important. I appreciate it. I'll get a prayer out for all of us now. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father Jehovah, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers in our households, that we would have your strength, stamina, and endurance, and we would have your healing and recuperative power flowing through us, and that us and our animals and pets would be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. And I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I pray that we get a good victory over Iran quickly. And I pray that you would quickly break the bow of Elam, which is the missile launchers. I ask you for this quicker than it has been, if that's okay with you. And I pray that we would all understand the Bible better. I pray that I could do better videos. And I pray that if any of us need to find a job or work, we find a good job or good work. And I pray if any of us need clients or customers for our business, we're self-employed, that you find what you need in that regard also, clients and customers. And I pray that your businesses and jobs go well. And I pray that all of us would have adequate finances and money. And I pray for all of us to keep the faith and the hope and the joy consistent, and that our Heavenly Father would help us with this. And I submit this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Now some spiritual warfare. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I cancel, make null and void any and all witchcraft and sorcery aimed directed at targeting any of us and any of our and anything we own, possess, control, set a hand to. It's all cast null and void, no power, no effect forever. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay. All right, guys. I appreciate your prayers, and I send my Shabbat Shalom because it's Friday. We say Shabbat Shalom, even though it's not Shabbat yet. That's how we do it in Israel. If you see somebody on Thursday, you're not going to see them again until after Shabbat. You would say Shabbat Shalom. If you are going to see them on a regular basis every day, you wouldn't say that. But on Friday, if you see somebody, you would say Shabbat Shalom, even though it's not Shabbat for several hours. The assumption is that you want them to have a good Shabbat or something. So I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'll keep you updated on this. Remember, Yeshua tells us numerous times to watch. And the watch is tied to lift up your head, your redemption draweth nigh. So it's designed to get you ready to watch. Now, the fires in America are getting more aggressive recently. And there was a huge one in Nebraska that went over 600,000 acres. I mean, guys, this is what it's doing. It's destroying the cattle grazing. That's cattle country. It's getting rid of the cattle grazing land and stuff like that. Some of the people that are staunch, pro-America, oh, we shouldn't help Israel, let the stinking Jews die, those kind of people, America's holy. We got all these churches here. Yeah, we got Catholic churches with idols praying to Yeshua's mother. Yeah, that's absolutely great, And you got a huge graven image in New York Harbor called the Statue of Liberty. Oh, it's all wonderful, But they're waking up and they see something's wrong now. They see some bad stuff happening. Yeah, they're getting the idea. They don't know what to do about it. Being a prepper doesn't help. So, yeah, it's the daughter of Babylon's on the way. I don't know how it's going to play. Could Iran actually attack the daughter of Babylon? It's this new missile they say they have, able to reach America. Guys, one more time. I do not think that Russia, China, or America or Iran can take a missile and send it 2,500 or so miles over an ocean. An optical reader can't tell where it is by looking at the water. Could you? Water looks the same. Let's say you were, like a super swimmer and you were swimming across an ocean. You're not going to know where the heck you are. How are you going to know? GPS. Let's see. Do the fish use GPS under the Atlantic Ocean and they're going to use the fish GPS? No, there's no GPS. I mean, the whales might have something like, but we can't tap into it. No, there's nothing that the fish have that we can use. Maybe they got something they themselves use to know where they are, but we don't have it. Maybe that's why they ground themselves. We do something with a stupid civilization that messes and breaks their GPS and they think they're going someplace and they're going someplace wrong and they wind up on land. Maybe that's what happens, but I don't know. I'm not an expert. It's sad though. So we got to, I don't know how you're going to get it across. You're not going to use radar. Radar doesn't go that far. You're going to, I just don't know how you're going to get it done. Yeah, I can't see a way. The only way I see that would work is put it on a ship, be it a container ship that has containers that contain missiles and missile launchers or whatever, and get close to America and just launch. I mean, if you're in the Gulf of Mexico and you're 131 miles from Texas and you point your boat at Texas and you fire the missile, you're going to hit Texas, okay? You could hit Texas, okay? Just by, you're going to be able to probably get GPS signals if you're that close to America. Or you'll be able to know where the land is. Now, could they fly the missile with a compass? Yeah, how would you do that? The compass would get a readings over the ocean, but I don't think it would work, or it wouldn't work well. They might miss by 100 or 200 miles. I don't think that would work. So you know what direction you're headed. So what good does that do you? You don't know. Can they tell where they are? Well, they could launch and then they could judge the fuel consumption at a certain speed. So they send the missile at 580 miles an hour and they know every 10 minutes it uses up this much speed. So they could probably calculate where they are in the ocean, but they're not going to be able to account for drifting. And I don't know. I think they might probably couldn't get it to cross the ocean, but maybe they could. But they're not gonna. Their inaccuracy would probably be in dozens of miles, if not 100 miles. So I don't know where they would go with that. I don't think they could. I mean, if they were going to try to hit Florida, maybe they could hit Florida, a target of 1,000 miles. Or so, that's how I'm thinking. I don't know. But all they got to do to crank the world up is hit Europe, and that'll cause NATO. You scare them enough, they'll activate NATO. Uh, so I don't think that you got a big danger of them crossing the ocean to hit America, but they could get close and definitely hit America with drones and missiles. And that's what happened in Port Arthur, Texas, and that's how they broke the pipeline. So it wasn't so much sleeper agents, it was more like ships from Iran were running around in the Gulf of Mexico and did it. I don't think it was sleeper agents per se. And when you see these drones over military bases, high probability they're being launched from Iranian ships floating around in the Gulf of America, usually called the Gulf of Mexico in the past. Um, yeah, that's what they're doing. You know, it's one thing to be 131 miles or something like that off the coast of America and hit Texas. Yeah, okay. It's another thing to be, 3,300 miles away and hit Texas or something. How do you do that? Well, that's a horse of another color. So I don't think they could hit there. I think they could hit Europe. Um, all right, guys, I'm out. Thank you. I hope you got something out of this. I'll be updating Telegram, and if we have anything unusual happen, I'll put it up on an emergency live stream. Now, you're not going to get a notice of these extra live streams. They only send one live stream notice out a day. What you'll get is nothing. You have to check the channel periodically, the YouTube channel, to see if I put anything up. So it's not every day I put it up, but it's probably 2 or 3 days out of the week. It's up to you if you want to check. It also goes on Telegram. So if you check Telegram, you'll see it there. I put the link into the YouTube videos on Telegram. All right. So I'll keep working. I'm out. And thank you for the offerings. And, I like to remind people about the offerings, and I just did. And I'm out.